money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
All right, back at you. Talk to RJ Choppy in half an hour. We'll go out to Dallas with the nonsense and what's going on there. We'll set it up for you as well about the madness in Dallas going on a daily basis as the world turns. And I thought this was America, throwing people out of arenas for a sign. I cannot believe what's going on. As always, every week we do top-bottom, and fun to kick stuff around here, even with a couple sports going on break and the NHL on break. Let's start with hockey. Covers.com, thank you. This is to bet. This is a $100 bet on each team. Washington up 14 units and change. Number one in the league. Anaheim up 11.89. The Jets, number 3, up 11.42. Columbus up 8.91. And the Wild up almost 8 units on the season. Worst ROI. Still Nashville leading the league. Best team off in the offseason. Hasn't translated on the ice. You are down 20 units on Nashville this year. San Jose down 13 units. Buffalo down 891. The Rangers down 819. And the Blackhawks down 771. Thanks to Ian Duncan and the Follow the Money Army. Goal in the first 10. At home, Minnesota, 8 in a row. Chicago, 17 of 21. San Jose, 17 of 22. Pittsburgh, 13 of 17. Edmonton, Florida, Nashville, 6-1 run. All at home. Goal in the first 10 on the road. Vancouver, 6 of 7. Edmonton, 18-5 run. Detroit and Toronto, 14-3. Overall, goal in the first 10. Toronto, 22-4. Florida, 7 of 8. Nashville, 10 of 12. Columbus is on 11-3 under run. St. Louis, 9-4. Unders on the season. New Jersey, 37-18-2. Anaheim, 35-17-2. The Kings, 30-19-1. Dallas, 31-20-4. Thanks to Jonathan Davis for some of the hockey numbers as well. And check him out every day with a lot of picks, vsin.com. Let's go NBA. The number one team, ATS, did it again last night. Memphis, 35-18 ATS, just ahead of the Cavs, who are 34-19. OKC.
Still.
Yeah, 32. Think about this now. 32-18-3 ATS. Every night you look up, they're laying 13, 14, 15 points.
And they're covering by 4 points a game.
Wow, that's incredible. And they're taking money. They open 11.5. I know they got the flu, and you mentioned with the Heat, but 13.5 in this game tonight. You're right, crushing it. So was Memphis by 5.4 points per game on average. Raptors 32-21-1. Clippers 31-21. A little concerned? A bit of a funk here.
A little bit of a funk. We'll see. You go to the break. I think they can see it coming from a mile away. When they come out, they're still scuffling, then you got some real problems. Ben Simmons is coming to save them, though.
Yes, and he loves basketball.
A little bit of versatility. Him and Anthony Rendon love their sports.
Yeah. Trailblazers 31-22-1. What a run they've been on.
Yeah.
They got crushed the other night against Denver, but they'd covered 11 in a row, and then they had the bad beat in Minnesota, and Denver took them out tonight in the same matchup. Denver's laying 11.5 tonight. Worst teams, ATS. The Kings, 18-31-4. And the Suns, 18-34-1. And they're 9-point dogs in Houston tonight. No Allen, no Booker. I want no part of it. What do they do? What are they going to do if they don't even make the play-in?
I would venture a guess that Devin, you have to. Devin Booker and Kevin Durant are on new teams.
Great.
You're stuck with Bradley Beal.
I'm with you.
But especially this nonsense, and it's not nonsense because it's admirable, but I call it nonsense because this nonsense of Booker wanting to be like a lifetime Sun. It's admirable that you want to stick with the team. They're going nowhere, and they're going to continue to spin their wheels. Ishbia screwed it up, man. You can't just throw money at the problem and expect everything to work out.
Yeah.
You've got to blow it up. I think it's been reported a couple of times, or at least thought, that for sure KD and the Suns are on the way for a divorce. You got to ship off. You got to ship off Booker. Houston's from what you understand, Houston's called that team almost every offseason. Let's go. They've got the assets. Booker on Houston would be absolutely tremendous. You've got the good young talent. Him, Ahmed Thompson, Alperson, whatever. Yep. Dude, they'd be great.
Yep.
Got to do it. You got to get rid of them.
I think that will happen. Mm-hmm. Sixers, 19-32-2. Heat, 21-30. Pelicans, 21-31-1. And the Wizards, still all these big point spreads and all the points they're catching, 22-29-2. Let's go to the overs. Top over teams. And you got a 237 tonight. Cavs, 35 and 18 to the over. Grizzlies, 33 and 20. Cleveland, number 1 in offense. Memphis, either number 1 or number 2 in pace. Yep. Denver, 33 and 21. Knicks, 31, 21 and 1. Not your dad's Tibbs team. And the Pelicans, 31, 21 and 1. And Atlanta, 31 and 23 to the over. Top under teams. Hornets, 32 and 19 to the under. Clippers, which you want at home, though, especially the opposition's team total under when it's their first visit, 29, 21, and 2. Magic, 33 and 22. Nets, 30 and 23 to the under. And not much there with Portland and the Celtics. All right, college hoops. We mentioned a sick run by San Jose State.
There you go.
It's an 18-2-1 ATS run, and then 18-5-1 you see for the season. What the Spartans have been able to do. This is incredible. And right now it's an 18-2-1 ATS run. Forget about that. You got the money. Almost won the game as a 10-point dog last night, led by 17 at halftime. UC San Diego. I like this team a lot. 17-5, just got the huge road win Saturday in Cal Irvine. I know people are saying, hey, can we get 2 bids from this league? It's a joke. It's not going to happen because UC San Diego is on next 4 out from Lenardi. Just not enough on the resume, even though they went into Utah State and won. Florida A&M, 16-5. Richie Bachelari works here at Circa. Loves the trash. Here it is. Central Connecticut State, 16-5. Bob Morris, 19-6.
Quality Horizon League team. Come on now.
Houston Christian, 17-6. Are you still following the Fighting Gottliebs?
Of course.
What's going on?
And they covered the last game. First half they did not cover. But for the game, they stayed inside of the number. But they ended up still losing. I think they've lost now 20 straight games.
They bringing him back?
The way the contract sets up, probably. But, hey, AD, and you have to because you made the hire, sticks up for him at every turn.
Wow.
Radio Row was good publicity for us.
All right. Wow. Okay.
Can't do that.
VMI, 16-6. The Yale Bulldogs, 13-5-1. Alcorn State, 15-6-2. And Southeast Louisiana, 15-6-2. All those teams tops. College hoops ATS. Go to the worst teams ATS. Western Illinois, 16-5-1. Sam Houston State, 16-5. Weber State, 15-6-1. Alabama A&M, 15-6. Richmond, 17-7. North Carolina, 17-7-1. Northern Kentucky, 17-7. South Florida and Vermont, 16-7. To the totals. Still strong with the Summit League. Still Summit. South Dakota, 18-4 to the over. North Florida, 18-5. Temple, 18-5. Northwestern, 19-6. UCLA, 18-6. North Dakota, 17-6. Tennessee State, 16-6. St. Thomas, 16-6-1. Northern Arizona and NC Central, 15-6. Best under teams, St. Louis. There it is.
Yep.
Bad beat yesterday. Game going over. St. Louis overtime. St. Louis 18-5 to the under. Good job by Dallin Cuff to point that out. Northwestern State 15-5-2. Little Rock 18-6. Cincinnati, Kansas. I think Kansas was 16-2 at one point. 18-6. TCU 17-6 to the under. There it is. Good job by the crew. Everything with top bottom in the world of sports. What's going on right now? So, do you have a Drake's in action tonight? Laying 2. Do you think Drake could be a Sweet 16 team? 22-2 on the season. It's a big one tonight, and it's unfortunate that this is a good league.
Yep.
As we talked about a little bit yesterday with Mike Palm. 6 of the last 7 years, they've only got one bid. But this league wins games and shows out usually in the tournament. What do you think about Drake to get an at-large if they stub their toe in Arch Madness?
I will never believe that these teams will get the benefit of the doubt when you're talking about getting in as an at-large if they don't win the whole thing. Having said that, I mean, the bubble doesn't look particularly strong at this point right now, right?
No.
So I would think that you should be able to make the case, and especially metrically. You're talking about a team that's top 50 in a lot of different metrics right now, and a lot of different folks have measured them in that regard too. And if you're talking about some of these bubble teams and who you're going to keep out as opposed to, if it's Drake versus BYU or Drake versus Wake Forest, things like that, I think whether or not the Mountain West gets a second team is going to be pretty interesting too, right? If you're talking about right, that's what I mean. Because right now they've got on the bubble, they got San Diego State, but I would say
I got Utah State and New Mexico, but
yeah,
I don't trust New Mexico State away from the pit.
I also don't trust the overall perception of the league after the last few years have been so disappointing. Right?
Yeah, so damn right.
They might not put them in, but I will never trust that they take care of the little guy for the most part.
Now it's all time bad about how you look at a power team against a mid-major.
Yeah,
because you're going to have they got 6 whatever. You get 20-some cracks at it.
Of course,
and you won't schedule me, and I get like 2 opportunities. Of course, you're going to have a.
Right. I mean, look, for example.
Do you want the team 500 or do you want the team that's 26-3?
I mean, you talk about respect really quickly here. You just had them on the worst ATS list. They're on the outside looking in right now, but like North Carolina shouldn't be sniffing this thing.
No.
But right now, they're in the first 4 out.
Oh, God.
And if they went out and make a run, all of a sudden you're going to start making a case for North Carolina to get in there.
Yeah. Ready to try something different? Sign up, start playing the ponies on First Bet. First Bet, U.S.-based, offers wagering on hundreds of races every day across the country and around the world. FirstBet.com, promo code VSIN200. Claim a 20% rebate for your first 60 days, up to $200. Head to FirstBet.com today. And they blew it last year because they didn't put Indiana State in, which the kid with the goggles was awesome. People would have ate that up if they were in the first 4, and how exciting that team was as well. Totally blew it. Been watching sports over 40 years. Been covering sports over 20 years. I can't recall a scenario I've ever seen this before, what's going on in Dallas. We'll set the stage, and we'll talk to RJ Choppy in 10 minutes from the Fan in Dallas about what's going on with the Mavs up next on Follow the Money. VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158. Pauly Howard, JVT.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We'll go up to Dallas up next. Talk to RJ Choppy, the Fan. And he'll set the scene about what's going on there. And I can't recall this ever in 40 years watching sports. And certainly, what were the Mavs? Where were they in the pecking order before Dirk? That they didn't.
Oh yeah,
they were good with Aguirre in some years, but then how bad they were. And Kevin O'Connor covers the NBA. It's so sad to see the Mavs organization crumble, ejecting a passionate fan base and several fans, including a 12-year-old. You can't have any signs that say "Fire Nico." They do karaoke in the arena. They put the guy in the jumbotron and he mouths "Fire Nico" and they throw him out. Jason Kidd, which this isn't my scene, but people who cover the NBA say this never happens. He wouldn't meet with the media after the game. Sometimes it only takes 4 minutes.
Yep.
And we refused to speak postgame. No medical update on Anthony Davis, the injured player you just acquired for your 25-year-old face of the franchise. And Dirk, Mr. Mav, goes to Luka's debut in Los Angeles. So then you have, going back to what the players said in the game against Houston, Klay Thompson included, that they were anticipating it to be like a road game. And they thought they're going to treat it like a road game. So while the fans are, the guys that are actually playing, root them on, and they've had some good performances, it's not like getting blown out, but blew that game against Sacramento and beat Houston because AD was awesome. But then, in what likely is the worst trade in NBA history, got worse because in his first game after dominating, Davis got hurt, no update, said afterwards, I should be okay, could miss half the remaining games, maybe misses the rest of the season. And then you come out and they're having funerals, the GM's getting death threats, and then if you say or have signs that say "Fire Nico," they are kicking you out of the arena. Could you do a worse job handling this?
No, unless you would have the owner maybe go on a podcast and then list off some NBA greats and forget to list off the fact that Dirk Nowitzki
All right. There's another
actually
one.
played for your team.
There's another one.
It's been an absolute nightmare. There's not a single person who thinks that this trade is something that was smart to do, that made any sense whatsoever. You've completely shortened up your timeline by going and trying to get Anthony Davis. Maybe there is a year in which Anthony Davis gives you 75-plus games and is a Defensive Player of the Year MVP candidate. Maybe that's going to happen. You also, by the way, with this deal, hand all of the leverage over to we'll call it guy who has some fleeting loyalties at times in Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah.
Mercurial in Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
He's got all the leverage in the world now. You are now building around Kyrie. Kyrie goes from being secondary piece to the guy. You need him to come back. You need him to be the dude. So you give him all the leverage in the world. And in 5 years, everything could be gone because you traded away Luka Doncic. And you're banking on the fact that maybe he's going to turn into a fat, blubbery mess. Maybe he's going to go to L.A. and he's going to be out of shape and he'll always be hurt. But this guy plays so much basketball. Yeah. He plays in the summer for his national team.
Good point. He
plays in deep NBA runs, like postseason runs. He's been to multiple conference finals already and in NBA finals. There is no universe in which this made sense. And the way you've been handling it, it's always like the cover-up is worse than the crime. It's the same thing here. Your actions afterward have made it so much worse with what you're doing here. Mm-hmm. Just take your medicine. If you believe in it this much, take the people telling you that you should fire Nico, because then you can prove to them that they were wrong the whole time. And instead, now you're here. Gafford gets hurt, which makes it 1,000 times worse.
Right.
You have nobody playing center for you now. You could slip because you're only about a game and a half out of 10th right now.
That's the thing.
Yes.
They could miss the play-in entirely.
Yes.
How's that trade look then?
Remember 2 years ago when they traded for Kyrie Irving? And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, what's happening here? What the hell is going on? And then they slip out of the play-in entirely. They tanked to go get Derek Lively. Remember, they could have stayed active. They were mathematically alive. And they sat Luka, remember? Yeah. Because they wanted the 10th overall pick, because they wanted to keep the pick to go get Lively. You could do the same thing here. Difference is you don't have Luka Doncic to rely on in the next season to potentially bounce back and get you to the NBA Finals.
I said the day after the trade, I used the analogy in comparison to Randy Moss, where it was, well, he takes plays. There's no but when you average 90 catches, 1,600 yards, and 12 touchdowns, right? Mm-hmm. When your bad year, you're 29, 8, and 7. There's no but. He's 25. He just went to the finals a couple years ago with a lousy roster. He carried you to the Western Conference Finals. What are you doing, Fran Fraschilla? I can't believe the new Mavs owner's trashing Luka. Then the next thing to come out was like, we were concerned about the Achilles, and then taking a vacation and out of shape. Mm-hmm. I've been watching this kid since he was 16. I know some of the behind-scenes stuff. Here's some perspective. This comes from an all-time NBA evaluator. Never, ever trade a young superstar. They're too hard to find. He killed himself playing year-round for 2 or 3 seasons, representing both the Mavs and Slovenia national team. Few superstars would do that. They treated Jalen Brunson like a second-round pick, right up until the time he signed with the Knicks. You'll learn that Dallas is first, last, and always a Cowboys town, but Dirk made it cool to be a Mavs fan. The people who pay for front-row seats wouldn't know a pick and roll from picking your nose, but they came to games and they gave us Dirk 20 years, and Luka was going to give you 15 more. Mark Stein. The last time the Mavs played a game without Dirk or Luka was April 1998. Never underestimate ego as a decision maker. A future Hall of Famer is gone, and a potential future Hall of Famer is with the Knicks. As Rob Pelinka said, we got a gift. We're talking about a 25-year-old that's a top 3 player in the universe. We know he walked into something. So then you talk about Dumont. What were the chants at the game?
Well, so it was before the game where they were chanting, I think it was on Monday, "He's not fat, bring him back," over and over again, referring to Luka Doncic.
Okay.
He's not fat, bring him back, over and over again, which is absolutely brilliant because, hey, look, he's a little fat, but you got to bring him back. You can't do it.
Yeah. It's hilarious to say he's 25, even though we went to the finals, but we're concerned about he's overweight and his playing weight and he could get hurt, and we don't want to give him that money. And then you trade for a guy who's always hurt, and his nickname is Street Clothes.
Yep.
And he gets hurt in the first game.
I mean, that's the problem is you can't cite availability, essentially, as the problem for a guy that has mostly been available playing year-round basketball and then shorten your window and trade for a guy who has had availabilit issues throughout the entirety of his career. It really rings hollow when you go and do something like that. And it makes us think again, you always say, don't urinate, tell us it's raining. It doesn't. It does not add up at this point right now. And you'd have more respect for the organization if they were to just come out and go, look, we're new owners. We don't want to pay that money. Right? He's going to see he was eligible for the Supermax. He was eligible to make more money with Dallas than any other team, obviously. He was going to put pen to paper. There was no reason why you would even try to float that out there that they were worried that he wouldn't. He would have. And just say you didn't want to pay him. Just say you didn't want to do it. And I think a lot of people would have more respect for that than trying to disguise this as something else than what it really is, which is being cheap, which, again, you go back to why in the world would you buy a basketball team if you were afraid, because the end goal outside of getting the NBA Finals is getting a player of Luka Doncic caliber and building around him for 15-ish years. And then for Shilla's tweet, it brings up the greatest point of all. 2.5 years ago, they were in the Western Conference Finals with Jalen Brunson and Luka Doncic on the roster.
Yeah.
And now here they are, potentially slipping out of it, both of them on two different teams. It's insanity what they've done here
and
with the two players they've had.
Sorry, he had this incredible asset. He only called one team. Hey, Rob, let's get some coffee. Here's Dumont, who married into the Adelson family, now running things at the game when they booed him. Are they booing me? Are they booing me? Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Of course they are.
Yeah. Well, that was loud. He's taking his seat front row, and he looks to his bar. Are they booing me? Mm-hmm. Oh, they brought it.
And then they go on to blow that game to the Kings. Double-digit lead late in that game, and then they blow it, losing overtime.
Here's his comment. Dallas Morning News. In my mind, the way teams win is by focus, by having the right character, right culture, and having the right dedication. I'll come back to that word. Dedication to work as hard as possible to create a championship-winning outcome. And if you're not doing that, you're going to lose. If you look at the greats in this league, the people you and I grew up with, Jordan, Bird, Kobe, Shaq, they worked really hard every day with a singular focus to win. And if you don't have that, it doesn't work. And if you don't have that, you shouldn't be part of the Mavs. That's who we want. I'm unwavering on this. The entire organization knows it. This is how I operate outside of basketball. It's the only way to be competitive and win. If you want to take a vacation, don't do it with us. The guy in the Dallas Morning News points out when he won his third title with the Lakers, Shaq said I played at 400 pounds. Kobe loved him. Also, Phil Jackson dedicated a whole chapter in his book to how difficult he was to coach, and he was a tough teammate.
The Mamba mentality stuff came later in his career.
Yeah. He was tough. He looks a little on the pudgy side, but he averages 29, 9, and 8, and then he was the favorite this year to win the MVP going into the season.
And the organization, look, I know it's under new leadership, but still the front office in terms of the execs remain somewhat the same. This is an organization that enabled Luka every step of the way. He screamed at them in the NBA Finals to challenging F and play because of the way they handled it. They were comfortable, and then you turn around like, that too much, can't do it.
Yep. RJ Choppy, the fan in Dallas. More on this mess and what it's going to be like moving forward, and if the Mavs are fade material on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We continue what's going on in Dallas with our friend RJ Choppy, the fan in Dallas, 105.3 Fallmont X at RJ Choppy. He joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. He was so good a couple weeks ago on the Cowboys and Schottenheimer. Well, Jerry Jones caught a break. When no one's talking about Schottenheimer now. How are you?
Whoo, man. What a couple of weeks here, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it. And I'm sure you're stunned as well. How about how bad it's been that we're not going to show fans on the Jumbotron anymore?
Well, I mean, this organization has shown over the last, I don't know, I guess 10 days, how sensitive they are. And it's really to the point where they're becoming the most hated ownership group in town and the most hated front office in town. And that's saying a lot because there was a time, just a couple of weeks ago where the ownership group was loved and the front office and the general manager was loved. But what a role reversal. We have not seen anything like this in DFW in my 28 years here.
I said before you came on, I've been covering sports for 20 years, and I've never seen this before, let alone Dallas. You're kicking fans out of games. The T-shirts and how sensitive they are, and what Dumont said to the Morning News. You just went to the finals. You haven't been a laughingstock for 10 years.
It's embarrassing. And the thing that hacks fans off the most, the ownership group just got here. Like they just got here and we haven't seen the impact, and I'm sure they've invested in the community. We just haven't seen the impact of it yet. Right. Like, you get here, and all of a sudden, you don't know really anything about the town. You probably couldn't tell me where Reunion Arena was to begin with.
Okay.
And then you ship off the young player that we love. And if you knew anything about DFW sports, outside of the Cowboys are different. The Cowboys are different, right? But DFW sports, the fans here want to be able to like the team they're rooting for. Like, that's important. We loved the Nowitzki era so much. We would rather have won the singular title with Dirk than get a bunch of mercenaries in here and win 3 or 4. Like, that's just the nature of DFW as a sports town. Again, Cowboys are different. Football is different. The other sports, we want to be able to like who we're rooting for. Luka was one of ours. Like, we loved him, and it was ripped out of our hearts.
How'd you feel about trashing them on the way out and what they're doing now with character assassination, body shaming, everything?
It's ridiculous. I mean, yeah, okay, yes, Luka is not he doesn't look like Shannon Sharp with his shirt off in his prime, right? Okay, we get it. We get it, right? But it doesn't mean that, he's 25 years old. Who at 25 takes their life? Your 20s are fun. Mm-hmm. Very few people in their 20s are what they are at 30. So you didn't have to worry about the second apron for 3 more years. You could have signed him and not worried about that. You didn't have to worry about his body breaking down for a couple of years because he's 25 years old and he just went to the finals. And when the guy is on the floor, he's the best player on the floor, and he's on. It's not like he misses 40 games a year. It's not like he's Joel Embiid. And then you also bring in the guy, Anthony Davis, who also never plays. So the trashing him on the way out, I think it's just low. It's low. I can't imagine Kyrie Irving opts in the next year. I wouldn't. Klay Thompson. Klay came here to go play with Luka, and all of a sudden, a couple of months in, he's gone. It's a mess, man. It's a mess.
RJ, how much you talk about the mess, and then we see Daniel Gafford go down the other day. How bad does this get on the court? How bad are they going to be defensively? What are they going to do at center moving forward? Well,
that's the thing. Okay, so but you already had Derek Lively be out.
Yep.
And now you got Anthony Davis, AD is out. And then now you add the Gafford thing. That's 2 weeks at a minimum. I mean, it's not like 2 weeks of returns. No, 2 weeks they reevaluate him. So they've got nobody. They've got nobody in the middle. They moved, they traded Maxey. So he's not a center, but he's 7 feet tall. He can at least give you some minutes and get you some rebounds. So they're going to struggle. Like there's a legitimate chance this team doesn't even make the playoffs right now.
They're going to be a bad defensive team. DeMar lights them up the other day. Fun game in overtime, but they end up losing, blowing a double-digit lead in the fourth. Is that going to be representative of what they are? High scoring, bad defense?
Well, I mean, defensively, PJ Washington's out too. He's a good defensive player. Max Christie, the Max Christie pickup is interesting because he can play defense on the perimeter. Klay has not been terrible defensively. You just don't want to. You want to manage his minutes. You don't want Klay out there playing 34 minutes a night at his age. Kyrie is a liability defensively, and quite frankly, in the playoffs, you got a smaller guard. It does sometimes get tough for them to score. He didn't have a great series against Oklahoma City last year. Did really well against Minnesota. But, I mean, it's defensively, this team is going to be – there was a chance. When they're healthy, they're a nightmare to deal with, but they're not healthy.
Yep. 6.5-point dogs tonight at home against the Warriors. Minus 185 to miss the playoffs. RJ Choppy, our guest, the fan in Dallas on the Progressive Guest Line. Follow the money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Can you tell us the scene, what it's been like outside the stadium, how bad it's been?
It's been, I mean, look, this is not a pitchfork town. This is not a protest town. I've never seen anything like it. We've never, I've lived here since 1997. I've been doing radio here since 2002. I've never seen them protest the Dallas Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys are the only team in town that doesn't have a championship since the turn of the century, and they've never been protested. And meanwhile, every other team in town has been to at least 3 and championship series.
Yeah,
3 championship series, and every one of them's won a title, and the Cowboys have it. No one protests the Cowboys. This was such a complete and utter shock. It took over Radio Row at the Super Bowl. It's taken over our radio station. We talk Cowboys, 75% of the sports we talk, is football related. It has completely taken over everything. I've never seen anything like it.
Were you outside for the "he's not fat, bring him back" chants? And is that the greatest chant ever created?
Greatest chant. I was not there. Greatest chant ever created. Yeah. It was. Look. It's the community has really come together on this. Like this is nobody can. Nico Harrison and Patrick Dumont did the unthinkable. They brought everyone together, old, young. They brought all the ethnicities and races together. They brought all the political sides together. The only enemy is Nico and Patrick Dumont right now.
Wow. So what's the most egregious thing you've seen in terms of kicking someone out or how they've been treating fans, Jumbotron, 12-year-old kids, can't have that sign, etc.?
Yeah, there was 3 fans that at least sent something to us where they had put tape. They put like duct tape over their Mavericks logo. They made them take the tape off. Oh. One person had a shirt that had the Nike swoosh and it said "Fire Nico, just leave" instead of "just do it." They wouldn't let him in the building. Oh. The one guy that was on the Jumbotron, they were doing like a karaoke, starts singing, and there's a close-up shot of him, and he yells out, he mouths "Fire Nico," and he gets booted out, escorted out of the building. Mark Cuban cursing at fans, or at least that's the report. I saw that he was cursing at fans for screaming. I mean, none of that is good. They have done this. There needs to be a PR class, a lesson taught on this in college of how not to operate a major company during the time of crisis. This is a what's not to do.
RJ, you mentioned one of the most, I think, interesting developments, too, is they have now handed all of the leverage over to Kyrie Irving here, who's got a player option. What's he been like with this team? He seems to have been quiet by his standards. He's been a pretty good soldier. How do you think that dynamic plays out now that he's got all the power here?
I mean, it all depends on how he likes AD. He does have all the power. He does have that player option. He liked playing with Luka. I don't know. Like they took, even his window. The Mavericks didn't have to make a decision yet, 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. They manufactured a window that didn't need to be manufactured. And they took a 10-year window and they made it 3. So if you're Kyrie Irving, it's like, why would I stick around here? We're really going to be better than we were. I suspect he's with the Lakers next year if they can afford him.
Yeah. Wow. How big was it that Dirk was at Luka's first game in L.A.?
I don't speak German, but that sounds like "F-you, Nico" in German. That's what that sounded like to me. Oh, I don't know what he said. That spoke volumes. Like, it doesn't get any more embarrassing if you're the Mavericks front office than that. But you know what? Like, from what I've heard, the ownership group hasn't embraced Dirk. He kind of feels like he's been pushed aside. They're drawing a line in the sand. This is our team. This is not the Cuban era. This is not the Don Carter era before that. This is our era. And what I'm gathering is that Luka doesn't have much of a relationship with them. I'm sorry, Dirk doesn't have much of a relationship with them anyway.
Incredible job. Great to talk to you. Go get him tonight. Thank you for a few minutes.
Thank you, guys.
RJ Choppy, the fan in Dallas. That is nuts. Oh, more thoughts on that coming up. And we got a big one at the top of the hour. St. John's and Villanova. And the college basketball card next. VSiN, follow the money.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Putting a bow on this. Again, the Mavs minus 180 to miss the playoffs. 7-point dogs, 6.5-point dogs tonight at home to the Warriors, which again will feel like a road game with what's going on outside of the arena. I can't believe this. I mean, what if a fan puts a bag over his head? Right. You're kicking him out too?
Of course. It's ridiculous.
I mean, and then the other thing that RJ was talking about, I forgot to mention it in the previous segment. You got Mark Cuban, who sold the team, but Mark Cuban is yelling F-bombs at people. And then he's defending himself. Like, this is who would want to go to that arena? You just went to the finals. You trade the most beloved player outside of Dirk, who then shows up, he's right, huge, to show up to his first game. I back Luka. And then they're kind of pushing him to the side if he was everyone loved him. the Mavericks organization and going back to where they were before they got him. And then it's, I'm stunned by this.
How can you spend your money on the franchise, right? To your point, like spend money on tickets, put it in their pockets, merchandise, everything like all of those things going forward.
I got a guy F-bombing me.
Yep.
And I get kicked out if I put up a sign, fire Nico, or I mouth it, and I'm gone. And kicking out a 12-year-old kid, too. So, now the fact that they could miss the playoffs. When they made the trade, they were only a game out of the 11th spot.
Mm-hmm.
Now they've lost a couple games, and AD gets hurt right away, and then the Gafford thing as well. I'm rarely stunned and shocked. I can't believe the behavior of this organization. And then Dumont in the Dallas Morning News that made it worse. Man. Big game tonight. With tips in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes. St. John's 2.5 against Villanova. As I talked about earlier, the what-if scenario, this team could be undefeated.
Yep.
When you consider what happened in their losses. 21-3. Lenardi's got him a 4 seed. Keep winning. Thought there was a great win when he beat his son and blasted New Mexico. Blew the Baylor game. Should have beat Georgia. Lost by 3, and then lost by 1 to Creighton on the road. That's the resume. 21-3. Those are the 3 losses. Beat Kansas State, looks better every day, and then the run they've been on to beat Marquette, go to UConn and win after trailing early, and this continues now. But we've seen it in college where you're like, like I've been saying, I don't like the spot. Can they do it again? And these teams have been rising to the occasion. Can Pitino do it again at Nova, and then Creighton at home? Coming up this week. That's
the real question, isn't it? Because now the market power ratings is going up and up, right? They cover some of these numbers. They continue to perform. Laying 2 on the road against Villanova, coming off a win like you did on Friday against UConn. Situationally, I think situational handicappers love these spots. This would be considered the letdown, right? You go and you beat UConn. Your power rating goes up, and now you got to lay a number on the road against Villanova. A Villanova team, too, that has had its ups and downs, right, throughout the entire year, but comes into this having won 2 straight, covered their last 2 as well, kind of turned it around since a 1-5 stretch. And here's the thing, again, I like this St. John's team a lot, but I do think it is a plausible scenario, Paul, where they come into this and your defense, which has been great, has a little bit of an off night. Villanova, who's an awesome shooting team, one of the best shooting teams in the country, gets hot from beyond the arc, and all of a sudden you as a team who is one of the worst shooting teams in the country have to make up that deficit and catch up. And when you factor all those things together, I'd be a little worried about jumping into the top of the market. If you haven't been riding this already with St. John's, lane 2 on the road might not seem like a lot, but given what Villanova can do when they're actually at the peak of their powers on offense, it's a top 20 team in terms of offensive efficiency still. And we know how basketball works still. In any single sport, offense generally has an edge. And if they're hot from beyond the arc, can you trust St. John's at an inflated market rate to go in there and lay this number and cover it? I think, to me, it'd be lean a little bit toward Villanova here.
So this is a great discussion in terms of handicapping a game and also power rating. But overall, power rating. Because if you don't like how they shoot, maybe you don't love the roster, but how much do you put on a Hall of Fame coach and grit, determination, and they're going to outwork their opponent and beat them on the glass? And that you saw what they did against Marquette too. I mean, that was just we're gonna get you on the glass, we're gonna outwork you, and maybe we don't have the best shooting team, but we're gonna find a way to get it done.
It's not a 1-to-1, but against a similarly rated team. Remember, Villanova was a 1-point favorite at home against UConn. And now here they are catching 2 against St. John's. So, again, whether or not you think there's a difference there between St. John's and UConn, again, that's a pretty sizable gap between 2 teams that are power rated pretty similar to one another, I would say. Even if you give St. John's the edge over UConn, pretty similar team. And UConn, too. It's not like the trash. Bounced back pretty nicely yesterday.
Yeah.
Against Creighton and looked every bit of a team that could compete at the top of the Big East.
Yeah. So I'm rooting for this team. And I know Pitino's bothered by the free throw shooting and everything that's going on with the offense, but to find ways to get it done and keep winning games, it's a great story.
I mean, you play defense like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to give up many open looks.
Yeah, I know.
That's really going to carry you a long way, but you're going to, maybe it's not tonight, you're going to run into these games where you're going to have to get to the free throw line, make your free throws, and hit threes. And like those are 2 areas that do, I think, worry you in the big picture. Maybe, again, it doesn't manifest today, but in a setting where you have to win 6 neutral site games over the course of 3 weeks, that's where I think you get a little touch and go.
Yeah. But an unbelievable coach and a great turnaround. And, again, a couple close losses, they could be undefeated. It's money coming in on Illinois State now. Is it down to 1.5? Drake at Illinois State. And we talked about Drake earlier, 22-2 on the season. They just had that. They lost at Illinois, Chicago by 4, and then they got beat by Murray State. Other than that, that's it. And the question is, can they get an at-large bid if they don't win at all in Arch Madness? If they win tonight, obviously 23-2, but then the big one with Bradley at home, revenge against Illinois, Chicago, and they go to Northern Illinois. Right. Evansville's bad. They close with Missouri State. So if they can win out here, I mean, it goes back to I don't care what league you play in. If you're going to win 28, 29 games, I got to put you in with this crap that's sitting there on the bubble, right?
I would agree. Again, we've got a pretty long track record of, I think, the committee really not doing it. But I think when you look at everything overall, where the bubble's at right now, and what you see from this Drake team, I wouldn't think that they're not one of the top. I mean, right now, some of the metrics have them top 60, top 55. One of the best teams in the country that deserves to be getting in there, outside of just not winning an automatic qualifier. Whatever. You got to get them in.
Yep. Hope they get it done tonight. What do you got with Arkansas? Look what they're laying tonight.
I don't know what to do with this team.
Yeah.
So, you're actively, if you've been tracking them for a little bit, you're actively fading them, right? I mean, they had that start to the SEC play. You're actively playing against them. They finally, get right when you're talking about that stretch where they win 3 out of 4 games. They fight tooth and nail with Alabama. It's a big revenge spot, too, because that LSU game, it's not like they led by a lot, but they were back and forth with LSU in that contest, and it looked like that was going to be the one where maybe they were going to snap that slide. Ultimately, don't. And we know, too, right? Obviously, Boogie Flang gets injured. You're thinking, all right, this team's going to be toast. But the offense has kind of turned things around here, and defensively, they're playing a little bit better. If you look at this run that they have been on, 3 of their last 5 opponents they've held under a point per possession. That's Georgia, Oklahoma, and Texas that they've held to under a point per possession of those 3 games. They've been playing a lot better. And so if you're going to actually suck it up and play on that level defensively against an LSU team that comes into this thing, ranked 15th in SEC play in offensive efficiency, scoring less than a point per possession on average, would make a lot of sense. And you talk about situations and spots, they seem to be somewhat impervious to it, right? You would think after the Kentucky win, you're like, you're toast. Yeah. Back-to-back road games. Now you got to go to Texas. Still get it done.
Well, you said it earlier, and you made the comparison to Kansas State. Right. And the Kansas State thing's unbelievable. They lost 10 of 11. And now they've won 7 in a row. And they're right there in the mix to get a spot in the tournament. Mm-hmm. It started with a 13-point win against West Virginia. They routed – I mean, how does this stuff happen? And then they routed Oklahoma State. They went into Iowa State and won by 20, beat Arizona State, beat Kansas by 8, and then beat Arizona.
Yep.
And now they got the trip to BYU and Utah back-to-back coming up. So to be that bad, both these teams are now to turn – I can need to see more with Arkansas. But what Kansas State's doing – it's like, I don't want to play them right now.
In some of these projection systems, KenPom still has them losing to 5 of the next 7 going down the stretch here at conference play. Maybe you're a little slow on the uptick to really upgrade this team, but, dude, they've been absolutely fantastic in their last 10 games. I brought this up to humans yesterday. If you sort it by, opponents in terms of the top 50, they were going into yesterday, now 5-5, so they were 4-5, but top 30 in offensive efficiency against top 50 teams. They do play these teams really well, and I think they're better than some of these metrics would indicate.
Great card last night, and great action in the SEC again. Not a deep card tonight or Thursday, but still some good games coming up in college. VSiN fans, it's your time to plan your Vegas getaway. Derek Stevens offering you 15% off at all 3 properties, Circa, the D, Golden Gate. Whether you're hanging by Stadium Swim or at the tables, use promo code VSiN15. Book your stay now, circalasvegas.com, VSiN15. Get 15% off. Unbelievable steakhouses with berries and Andiamo, my favorite spot. Go see Miguel. He looks like Pitbull. He's the man. Your Vegas adventure starts here. CircaLasVegas.com. Code VSiN15. Up next, NFL. Player movement, odds on where these top players will wind up, and you won't believe. Number one, he's making a lot of noise, Joe Burrow, and good for him. But you won't believe what T. Higgins has tweeted in the last couple of days. We'll get that reaction, some good odds, and some futures. Plenty of NFL talk up next on VSiN. Follow the money. The Sports Betting Network, VSiN Watch App, Sirius XM Channel 158, live downtown Vegas, Circa.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger, Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.